That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about They, Them, the directorial debut of John Logan, which premiered at the 2022 Outfest Film Festival about a week before its streaming premiere on Peacock, August 5th, 2022. John Logan is an Oscar-nominated scribe who has written many films for Ridley Scott, Martin Scorsese, Oliver Stone, and so I was kind of surprised at how terribly written this film is.
Yeah, unfortunately. I didn't know who John Logan was until you started the film and I started looking up their IMDb, which is very impressive. Mm-hmm. So this is a very interesting turn.
2 James Bond films, Skyfall and Spectre.
Gladiator.
I had told you about this film a couple months ago when I heard about it. It's a Blumhouse production.
I like Kevin Bacon. Yeah. It's about gay conversion therapy. So of course, and it's a horror film. So of course I wanted to watch it.
Yeah, I was very curious.
This movie didn't give me anything I needed. Not a single thing.
No, and it's just funny for such a potent, because it's a gay conversion horror film, for such a potent environment, it is very dialed back.
Okay, the basic story is Kevin Bacon runs this like LGBTQ plus conversion therapy camp.
His name is Owen Whistler.
And one of the former campers / students / patients, whatever you want to call them, comes back and kills all of the employees, including Kevin Bacon. The end.
Mm-hmm. It's a very truncated synopsis.
That's it. The opening of the film is there's this person driving and someone throws spikes in the road. This car becomes disabled. The person in the car gets out and is killed by like a masked person, mm-hmm. a la like Jason Voorhees. Mm-hmm. And then we go to the camp. This new group of campers comes in. We get to know them and their stories, which we'll get into. Kind of. And then like at the hour mark, then this masked person comes back and kills, very rapidly starts killing the employees. So it's made very clear that like this person's getting revenge on this gay conversion camp up until the end when the final person they kill is Kevin Bacon. But the gag is, I mean, it's not even a gag because we know it's going to be someone who either participated in this program or maybe it's a loved one of someone who was in the program. It turns out to be the lady from My Girl.
Anna Chlumsky.
Mm-hmm. We see that she works at the camp as like maybe like a nurse or something. Mm-hmm. She had attended that camp. No one recognized her, namely Kevin Bacon. She starts working there with the intention of killing them, like all the people who work there. We can just talk about this now. That is, to me, is like the worst part of the story. Because the opening of the film is Anna Chlumsky, dressed up as Jason Voorhees, kills this woman who we find out was a new hire who was on her way to the camp to start her first day of work. Mm-hmm. How? How does she know this lady was... It doesn't make any sense. How does she know the lady was going there? Also, how does she know that they didn't interview this lady and they know what she looks like? Because the lady that she kills is sort of like a heavyset woman with shorter hair who actually kind of gave me lesbian vibes, which I thought was funny for working in a gay conversion camp. Mm-hmm. And then Anna Chlumsky is like a smaller woman with longer hair, different hair color.
Well, who's ever doing their payroll at the camp would notice that she's a lot younger than the woman.
Yeah, they didn't take like ID, and that makes no sense. Mm-hmm. So the fact that she was able to just go there and say like, oh, I'm Jane Doe, I'm your new hire, and then she just starts working. Mm-hmm. And we don't know how long she's been working there. Presumably she started before this new group of campers shows up.
The campers are also only scheduled to be there for 1 week, which I don't know what you hope to accomplish in 1 week unless it's something violent or supernatural. They don't even try like a 28 days later kind of routine. But this really needed to build a sense of menace across a period of time, because it shows that they're trying to play psychological games with these kids, and there are a couple scenes that are getting there and are kind of effective. But every time something happens, you're like, oh, but you only have like 2 nights left. Just wait it out.
Let me just go through these notes. So in the beginning, when all of the campers are like so first of all, when we first meet Kevin Bacon, it's a little disarming because he is very chill, very inclusive. So it's a good start as the audience because it's like, oh, this is defying what I would assume a situation like this would be like. He's very affirming. It's the campers who seem aggressive, obviously, because they don't want to be there. And then we move into like a group setting where they're all sort of describing why they're there. So I thought the opening of when they get to the camp was effective.
And that also, it's not going to be a Bible thumping experience. He says something about God, and he's like, that's the last time I'm going to mention the big man. I'm here to find out who you want to be. Which is interesting, but also, should be alarm bells for
Right,
anybody.
right. So, well, a funny scene I thought was there's a black woman who's part of this group, and she's in the bathroom, like the community bathroom, like on the first day washing her hair. And I thought, there's no way this black lady's washing her hair on the first day of camp.
You're only there for a week.
You're only there for a week? Why would she wash her hair? So that was already unbelievable.
Full on wet.
Well, and like soaping it up. Like there is no way this character, no. There's no way that lady with that hair would wash her hair on the first day of camp. But anyway, when she's in there shampooing her hair, one of the employees opens the door and is shocked. And we find out that woman is trans. So she must have seen a penis. And then the subsequent scene is like her being pushed into the men's campsite and Kevin Bacon yelling at her like, so this is the first glimpse we get of his true colors, that you lied to me. This is about trust. Like, that tone, I think, it's a bad sign after I watch a movie that I can think of like 5 other stories that would have been better than the one I just watched. Mm-hmm. And I think one angle would have been just like the movie Hypochondriac that we reviewed, about a man who's sort of at the onset of schizophrenia. The prospect of that alone is terrifying, right? A 30-year-old realizing that I have a family history of this mental illness and now I'm exhibiting those symptoms. Same thing for any like queer or trans person to think that they would go to a conversion camp. There's already so much built into it that is menacing and dreadful and cringy. I think that we should have leaned into that. And we can get more into what we thought would have been better stories. But I just thought like...
What's interesting about that is it happens right after we get the introduction to Jordan, played by Theo Germaine, who immediately, as they're going off to their binary cabins, is like he says, or they say, my preferred pronouns are they, them. Do you have a cabin for me? And Kevin Bacon's like, no, we don't have that yet. So why don't you go to the boys' cabin? And if you're not comfortable there, we will move you. So, this person seems very attuned to.
But he reprimands the black girl because Kevin Bacon says, Jordan, they, them, told me about their situation. You didn't, so you're lying to me.
Right. So it gets into what I think is a more interesting aspect, is about putting people in their place and putting them in their respective boxes, because what Jordan represents is somebody that you can't put in a box, and that is what will cause this whole system to unravel, because by putting them in boxes you can keep us apart, blah 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 blah.
Which is a very interesting conversation. I don't think the film delves into it enough to make it that meaty.
No.
But I think what you said would have been a very interesting topic to discuss, like somehow in the film further. But okay, so the acting. I think Kevin Bacon and Anna Chlumsky, I think they did fine with what they were given. And, I like Kevin Bacon, so just him on screen usually is satisfying. And then the black lady, the trans lady,
Quei Tann plays Alexandra.
I thought she did a fine job.
And also kind of sleepaway camp vibes, and of course the Friday the 13th connection with Kevin Bacon. And
they're at a campsite with a lake that's very Crystal Lake.
And Jason Voorhees is directly referenced, and
the killer's wearing a mask. It's just like, okay.
But the killer is not scary at all. To me, what did I say? This is like Christopher Darden saying that black people can't hear the N-word during the OJ trial because they'll just lose their minds. It's like, the LGBTQ community is very resilient and have gone through terrible things. You can be a little more realistic and
getting back to the acting,
handling us with kid gloves with this narrative.
Getting back to the acting, there's the other camp employees I think do fine with the material they're given. A couple of the campers, like the blonde lesbian, I thought she did okay with what she was given. But there's a bisexual Asian person with red hair.
Veronica, played by Monique Kim. And we learned, is an undercover journalist.
I feel like she went to the Kerry Washington School of Acting. It was a lot of mouth and face, and it was crunchy. And then there's like the hot guy who's like the swimmer.
Cooper Koch.
He felt like he should have been in a different movie, like those Eating Out or yeah, is that it? Like the Eating Out series. I felt like his acting and that character belonged in a different kind of movie.
Or Ryan Murphy Productions.
Then there's a character named Gabriel who's integral to this story. Gabriel is like a femme presenting man. So he has the body of like a 20-year-old twink, but the face of like a 48-year-old white lady. Like he looked like if you mix like Rose Byrne and like...
I think they looked like if they had stepped off a Chilean production of an Anne Rice novel.
But the reason I'm bringing up their appearance is because, and also the acting, like the accent, it was a lot. I mean, it's pretty campy. I was giggling.
Darwin Del Fabro.
We find out that person, that character Gabriel, Kevin Bacon has this person as like a temptress to see if like he can entrap the gay guys and to prove that therapy's not working and that they need to use like harsher methods.
Which again, after a week, and this is like day 3.
It's day 3. What have we done to get the gay out of me? And then Gabriel's charms work on the swimmer. And I'm not implying that one's better than the other, but the swimmer is like a very good-looking guy who's presenting very masked and doesn't seem to like gay things. And then Gabriel tries to seduce the swimmer. And then we get a glimpse of maybe why the swimmer likes Gabriel, because the swimmer says, "Oh, you're really pretty. You look like a girl." And then they have sex. But here's the part that didn't make sense to me. First of all, if I'm going to use a guy to trap other guys, I probably wouldn't use someone who looks like Gabriel, because there's a coach played by
Boone Platt,
who's very handsome, like standard looking, like muscular big guy. He should have been the trap. He should have been the one seducing.
And especially because he's an ex.
And he was an ex-gay. So it's like, why isn't... Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, when you're trying to entrap someone, you only get them so far so that you can say, gotcha. So when the police try to trap you in the bathroom for like indecent exposure, they don't go ahead and have sex with you. When they're hiring a prostitute, they just give them the money, and when you take it, got you. But in this movie...
Yeah, they don't get to a happy ending and be like, you burn, bitch!
Gabriel seduces the swimmer and says, let's go back to a private place. They go back to this cabin. And they proceed to have sex, and that's when Gabriel goes, gotcha, and Kevin Bacon shows up.
But it's awkward because it's told as we get a cutaway that makes it seem like Gabriel was dreaming about it because Stu is napping on the couch, and then he wakes up, and they're like, no,
and we realize, no, it really did
I don't feel guilty, blah, blah, blah. And then Kevin Bacon comes in, and then they start the electroshock therapy.
They refer to Gabriel as the forbidden fruit. Child, y'all can keep that fruit. It was rotten to me. It just didn't make sense. Okay.
So the electroshock therapy...
Well, then because the swimmer succumbed to the Chileans... Succumbed? Is that the right way to say it?
He succumbed.
He came, so, oh my God. Then Kevin Bacon says, aha, so we need to use harsher tactics, which is electroshock therapy. But can we go back? I thought another really good scene was, so one of the employees is like this blonde lady who's like the therapist.
Carrie Preston, who's playing Kevin Bacon's wife.
Oh. We see that she has a session with Jordan. And again, if the angle was going to be like the dread of being a camper in this sort of environment, and then maybe like the psychological effects of maybe believing what they're telling you, because the lady is telling Jordan basically like, this whole they them business is just some shit you made up to like defy your parents because you want attention, and basically you ain't shit, and if you keep this up, you're just gonna be old and ugly and just amount to nothing but a dyke. And the way that lady told her that shit, it hurt my heart, like, because it made sense in a very mean way, but in a way that kind of shook Jordan. Like she was sort of thinking like, well, maybe I am on some bullshit. So I feel like...
And that is the tone that the film needed to go down instead of this like, a serial killer slasher film.
But then we go from that scene, which, I mean, I was shook, like, damn. I don't think that this non-binary person isn't valid in how they feel, but this lady got her together. And then we go to a scene where all the campers are together singing Perfect by Pink. And that felt like it was, again, out of a different kind of movie.
That's where it becomes like Ryan Murphy territory.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Then we have another character, the maintenance guy, who's supposed to be like...
Balthazar.
Who's like something out of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like this creepy guy who's like glaring at the women and monitoring them on...
Sling Blade.
Yes, like Sling Blade, monitoring the girls in the shower on surveillance cameras. I don't know why we needed that. Then we get a scene where the guys, so all the girls are taken to like culinary class while the guys are taken to like shooting. Mm-hmm. And we find out that Jordan is like a very proficient shot. So they have like a competition.
That scene is interesting because there's a standoff kind of between Boone Platt, the coach, and Jordan that's very much Monty Clift and John Wayne in Howard Hawks' Red River, where they're talking about how they operate their guns, but obviously it's a metaphor for something else.
But then there's another camper, this gay black guy, and Kevin Bacon's like, I need you to man up. I need you, because the black guy is afraid to shoot the gun. And Kevin Bacon's like,
Toby?
You see that dog over there? That dog is in pain. It's old. It needs to be put out of its misery. You need to shoot it. And of course, the black guy's like, I can't do it. And then Jordan shoots it. Again, I thought that was going in the right direction of like these psychological games that are being played with these campers that are sort of convincing them that maybe who they are isn't valid. But then it ends there because then we move on to that seduction scene.
Well, and then Jordan starts digging around and finds a box of pictures that are just in a drawer that look like they're taken across like wildly distinctive sets of periods of young people that look like they've been beaten or tortured. And we're supposed to immediately deduce that this happened at the Whistler camp, even though there's nothing that says this happened right there. And
why would these photos be in a little shoebox somewhere?
Right, and Molly walks in on Jordan and says, like, I had no idea this was going on. And I think we were questioning, what is going on? Like, what exactly? And then there's this, alternative shed that they say is not up to code where all the torture devices are. But we need to go back to that torture scene because... Stu is the one they're shocking, and they're shocking him when they're showing him like models, like from.
It's so stupid. I mean, it's such a familiar scene where they're showing the gay guy pictures of men and women, and every time he sees a man, they shock him.
But it's men that look a certain way that aren't naked, and they look like models. And it's like, well, you're just teaching him to. Probably prefer normal size.
It's just stupid. It doesn't make sense. And then like
very
this kind of treatment requires prolonged exposure. They're there for a week. Like this takes months of torture to like have like a Pavlovian response to these kind of things. Mm-hmm. So it's just like it feels like this is not well researched, not only in the tactics of how gay conversion works, like you said in the beginning, 1 week is not enough.
This needed to take, especially when you're talking about trans characters who, and hormone therapy does come up because Alexandra, for whatever dumb reason, hands her pills over, even though, they're only there for a week. But what happens if they're denied these medications that are integral to them and they start to revert in some ways? And what if they're also being drugged potentially, and how that messes with you psychologically? And that could have been really horrifying and effective.
Getting back to the torture for the week, it's also like, well, now I lost my train of thought. But anyway, we learned that Anna Chlumsky,
Molly,
her rationale for killing these people is that the murders will scare parents from sending their children to these sorts of camps. And that she wants to go from camp to camp killing these people, which makes no sense. Her final sort of shout is that because the motto for the Whistler camp is respect, renew, rejoice. And so in the end, Molly says respect, renew, rejoice, revenge. But it's like, so you really think like you're going to go to these camps? Like you're going to get caught after the first one. And then the final scene is Molly wants Jordan to kill Kevin Bacon, but she won't do it. So Molly like pushes Kevin Bacon into like a rhinoceros horn, because there's like a rhinoceros head mounted, and kills him. And then Jordan walks out and we hear the police coming the end. Yeah.
Not the end, because then we get a really sappy ending where several of the characters that we focused on have coupled up.
Oh.
And then there are a whole slew of other characters who we see quite distinctively on screen that don't don't get
Yeah,
any
there are a couple
dialogue.
of characters in particular who we see in like a lot of shots who never have lines. So again, I think this film could have been like we focus on the sort of psychological trauma and the dread of going through this sort of conversion and the toll it would take on them. Like that in itself would be torture as the audience witnessing these people being broken down. And then maybe some sort of gag. But I thought if we wanted to do the shit that we did in this film, what would have made more sense to me is have a group of activists sign up for this program, knowing that they are going to go and sort of get evidence. So they've been doing this at a bunch of camps where they go and get evidence.
To change laws.
To change laws, like something legitimate, but they picked the wrong camp this week because Kevin Bacon's camp, they torture people. So
Like the Pat Mills film, The Retreat.
Exactly. So I thought to the audience, we don't know that the people who we see show up for the camp are activists. We don't learn that till the halfway point. And then it's like, oh shit. But they have to play along with it. So for the first half of the film, as the audience, we're confused, like, oh my God, is the therapy working? Until we realize they're playing along. But then, like the Pat Mills movie, The Retreat, we find out that these people are actually...
Yeah, like how terrifying would it have been, like if your little undercover buddy suddenly disappears and they're like, oh, their parents came to pick them up, when you know very well that that could not have happened.
Right. I just feel like there are so many ways this could have made more sense. Or, obviously, when I saw the plot synopsis, I assumed that this was going to be a gay conversion camp.
Like Boy Erased meets Sleep
Where
With
they're
Me.
like killing the gays. Like that's how they convert them, is to exterminate them. So it's kind of like Saw meets, like The Retreat. Or another option would have been like that movie The Hunt. Mm-hmm. Where the liberals
Which
are
is the
killing...
most dangerous game, but yeah.
Something like that. But this shit is just like...
And then
it's so obvious. Like the biggest crime is that this is being categorized as a slasher horror film. But it's like we don't... for an hour of the movie, it's something else. And then the slasher part comes at the very end very quickly. And it's very obvious by who's being killed that it's like a former camper.
Somebody connected, yeah.
So it's not like interesting.
It's not thrilling or
Yeah.
surprising. And then in the very beginning, they waste some budget on CGI of a deer that kind of reminded me of The Ring 2. That did not look good.
All we did was shit on this movie. I'm sorry.
I maybe it's unfair because of Kevin Bacon, I had some higher expectations, but this is it's not good. But in preparation for it, because we watched it with some people, I made a bacon themed entree and fruit pie, which I found interesting because that's what they make the young girls do, is make.
Yeah, you were very excited when that scene.
Because
They make a pie and
I was just being funny, and it's like, oh, I guess.
Well,
that's what a woman makes pie. So.
I guess if you like Kevin Bacon or anyone in the movie, you could watch it. It was fun because there were 4 homosexuals drunk and high watching this movie, and so we were laughing, but it's not good.
No, but again, this needed a harsh scrub of the script, because you could see elements there, like Kevin Bacon says biological imperative a couple times, so it's like you're getting into Herbert Spencer's survival of the fittest maybe, and there's so many more interesting ways this could have gone, but to suggest that anything could happen in a week that goes beyond like killing these people, I don't know.
What would you give this film?
1.5.
Oh, what did I guess I didn't like it, so whatever. 1.5 out of 5. Like, anything else?
No.
Hit the thanks button. Listen to our podcast. Bye.